presented by Dano's Seasoning. Yum, yum, get you some.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome into a Sunbelt Syndicate from the first kick to the last pitch. And we've got Marv back on the show this week. Thanks for jumping back on with us, Marv.
Yeah, man. Sorry to take the hiatus last week, but took a adults-only trip to Universal Studios to do the Halloween Horror Nights with the wife, which is pretty
Nice.
Cool. Yeah,
I've never done that. It was enjoyable then?
It was fun, but it was crowded. I think it's a little overrated potentially. Glad we did it. Not sure if we would ever do it again.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. Have you been to the Carowinds one down there in Charlotte?
Never done that, no.
Yeah, I haven't either. I've had friends do that one, so wasn't sure if that was something you'd been down there to do or not. As always, welcome to the broadcast, Artie.
What's up,
yes,
buddy?
I'm doing well, Artie. Hope you are as well. I know it's not doing quite as well as Marv was talking about before we got going. The ODU score was a little surprising this weekend, but we will get into that here shortly. As always, brought to you by collegefootballdogs.com, Dubby Energy, Fanplex Graphics, TSN Off Road, and Dano's Seasoning. Thank you to all of them, and you can find their links for the discounts in the show description once we are done or while we're rolling along here, whatever you guys want to do. Certainly on the audio version, it will always be listed there as well. Man, let's just bring up the graphic and bring it up, man.
Jump right into it.
Yeah, why not? We do have. I've got a better way to have the Instagram comments up. So we've got a couple people from Instagram already saying a couple things. Hail Southern, baby. That's the first one, which I will say out loud for them this time because hey, they're in first place. You got to give them some credit.
Yeah, that was impressive. I thought that was going to be a good game. Could see it going either way, but it was impressive.
Yeah, and I don't know how much I know you were working a lot this week on the road, but TJ and I did, the preview episode as always, and both of us did not like, I think it was a 9.5 point spread, and we both did not like that. We said take Southern with that 9.5 point spread. We didn't really believe that JMU would get it done as they do against some of the lesser opponents that they've played so far. So yeah, they came out for it, and I think AJ Moore. I know it says A-Moore. I think it's AJ if I'm remembering correctly. So I want to hopefully give him credit there. He says so much for that 9 point favor. So it might have dropped to 9 by the time the game rolled around. But I like I said, I think it was a 9.5 point.
Yeah, when I looked, it was 9.5, and I did not take that one.
Yeah, I did, but I parlayed it, and Texas State screwed my parlay over. So
I took the under on the 61.5 on that Texas State Old Dominion game, just knowing that Old Dominion tends to make things really ugly and low scoring, and that was a good call.
Yeah, definitely a good call on that one. I turned those games on. Seth and I actually were at the State Fair this weekend, and we were trying to keep check of all the games while we weren't watching a couple of them live. We got back to see the ends of those two. We did not get to see any of the Coastal Louisiana game live. Went back and watched some highlights on that one. But someone else, what's up, Chuck, is saying Southern Miss fires head coach Will Hall. Team has been notified, and Reed Stringer announced as interim head coach. Yeah, Reed Stringer been with the program, I think if I was reading right, 4 or 5 years now. Recruiting specialist, specifically the tight ends, kind of similar to the situation App State had, and also had like 9 years with Louisiana. So it's not like he's unfamiliar to the conference and the opponents that he will face. I don't know if he's looked at as a realistic possibility to stay there long term or if they're kind of going to get rid of that whole regime. Hopefully some other Southern Miss fans can chime in with some hopefuls. I know we've seen some names thrown out some of these other programs, and might as well throw them out for Southern Miss now because you were officially on the clock.
They are. I don't think they're going to be the only team looking for a new head coach at the end of this season. And when things haven't been going your way, unfortunately, the prospect of who might be the next person in charge is exciting.
Yeah, no, absolutely. ODU winning yesterday. Can't wait to see the Southern ODU game. Yeah, we got Randy chime in with that. And yeah, Artie Cat. Will Hall still getting paid $860,000 severance for going 14-30 man, I should have been a college coach. Yeah.
Those buyouts, you put them in place because you don't want someone to have success and then get poached away by a bigger program. So that's why it's in place, but it can bite you in the ass.
Oh, yeah. No doubt about it. Yeah, that's actually that's less than I had seen. I heard someone see that he was supposed to be owed over $2 million, but that may be Artie's probably looked into it even more and realizing that you don't get the full payout or something. If it's
that was my question, and maybe you know the answer to this. So take his buyout, $860, right? If he gets hired next season, does his salary for the next season offset the buyout, or do they owe him all that money?
It's a good question. I'd hope your lawyers at those universities are pretty good to handle those types of aspects. But
a man could double dip for a year or two and do all right for himself.
Yeah, that's what isn't that what Rule did? Didn't he go to Nebraska right after the Panthers fired him? I mean, maybe it was a year off or something, but
I don't think he took a year off. I think he went.
It
right
wasn't
there.
Okay.
He might have. I'm not sure. I was. Don't get me started on the Panthers. That's a whole nother topic.
Yeah, we'll stay away from that, man. That's
can you fire the owner of your team?
Yeah, that would be the better start there.
Force a sale.
Man. Yeah, I got to get this Dog TV logo off because you can't even see the top part. There we go. Now we can see it all. So we did kind of cover this one because this one had happened before the preview show. So TJ and I kind of talked about it. Is there anything you want to mention specifically on your side of things from the South Alabama Troy game that ended up 25-9 in favor of the Jags?
No, I didn't hear what you guys said, but I'll just kind of give my thoughts. I mean, listen, we all thought that Troy was going to be down. They lost a lot, right? And they are down. They're not a very good football team at the moment. After watching South Alabama come into Boone on a Thursday night and thump us, I thought that they were better than what they've been since that game, to be completely honest. But, man, Troy had 167 yards of offense total for the game and 3 turnovers. You just can't win like that. That's all there is to it. They got dominated time of possession. South Alabama did have 9 penalties for 100 yards, but if you can only get 167 yards and you turn the ball over 3 times, you're not going to win a lot of football games, point blank, period. So the misery continues for Troy. I don't think they can. They're not going to get it right this season. I think everything that they should be doing at this point is geared towards next season.
Yep. You've got a young team with a lot of veterans that had left, a head coach and a staff that had left, and left the cupboards a little dry. You've got some talent on the field. Ross pictured here. Goose Crowder seems to be a pretty good quarterback. Unfortunately, he wasn't available for this game, which is partly why the offense sputtered a little bit. But, yeah, I think it's way too early to be talking about a firing on that end of things. Way too early.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, their coach is in year 1. He is literally having to rebuild a staff and a roster. You give him another year or two. That's kind of the funny thing, though. I was having a conversation with someone else. Back in the day, if you got hired as a head coach, you had to build your staff. It took you 3 or 4 years because you had to get your recruits in. Now with the transfer portal, like you could right the ship in 1 year if you get the right guys in. So I think the leash is a little shorter now than it used to be, but you got to give somebody at least 2, if not 3 years to see if they can get the kids to implement their system and all that good stuff. So I don't see Troy shouldn't fire the coach. And with the buyout thing, they probably can't afford to do it right now.
No, yeah, I don't think so. Look no further than in this conference, a team that had a bye week this past week, but the Warhawks. Who expected them to come out and be 5-1?
Nobody. I can tell you Vegas didn't.
Yeah. Well, maybe the Warhawks themselves, but probably just some of those people there. Let's get to Tyler Austin. Chip Lindsey got fired from Troy 3 years ago, and we completed that buyout last year, a cool $1.75 million for that crap job. But he went on to coach in high school to keep that buyout coming. And we have to be patient at Troy. The students were booing Coach Parker and our chancellor at our last home game. We can't be like that. Totally agree. Yeah, it'd be a different situation if he took over the keys to a Corvette and was ready to just take this team to continued levels of success. We all realistically knew that Troy was going to fall off a little bit. Now, of course, no one predicted 0-3 and 1-6, but it is what it is.
Listen, Dom, you and I live this every week, right, as App State fans. When the precedent has been set that you're going to be good and there's a expectation there, anything less than that gets people talking, You get the boo birds out. It's the price of success. It really is. I don't view it as a bad thing, but he's right. They do have to be patient. This is year one. They're essentially starting from scratch.
Yeah, and let's not forget, I mean, South Alabama's offense is explosive. Their defense is very good. I mean, they've had some games where they haven't played very well, but their defense is very solid defense. So it's not like, this isn't a good team that just beat them. Sorry. So we've seen what they've been capable of. They may be capable of it even more down the stretch. This Saturday was great. AJ Moore saying weekend for college football. Southern won, Georgia won, and Bama lost. Most people like it when Bama loses. And apparently AJ was saying that he called that South Alabama was going to win the belt. So that's a prediction that's looking decent right now. You got some real contenders in the West up there in Louisiana that'll have something to say about that, though.
I agree.
All right, this one was a Thursday night matchup. Marshall taking on Georgia State. I'll be honest, thinking back to this game, when I saw the score, I was like, wait, I thought it was like a one-score game. Like in my head, I'm thinking it was a one-score game. That's because Marshall scored so late to make this game look further apart than it really was. Yeah. So, you're seeing a 15-point difference here. This game was much closer than it looked like on the scoreboard when you look at it like this. When you're watching it live. But we do have to mention Marshall now 2-1 in the conference, while Georgia State, the team that beat Vanderbilt, who went on to beat Alabama, is now 0-3 in the conference. Tell me how any of that makes sense.
It doesn't at all. You and Seth and I were texting during this game. I mean, the first quarter and the first couple of drives of the second quarter were like, oh, my God, Marshall's going to boat race them. Like, they're just going to blow them out of the stadium. And then Georgia State came back. They had it down to 5 points. It was 20-25, like first play of the fourth quarter, and then Marshall just pulled away. Really good football game. New quarterback Marshall's got. I think he adds something new that a lot of defensives haven't seen yet. Keeps them on their toes, keeps them honest because he can run. Marshall's looked good the past couple weeks.
Yeah, I don't know. So going into the season, I thought Braylon Braxton was gonna be the guy. Okay, I just did because of where he was transferring from. He had the dual threat aspect, and I was like, look, that kind of stuff, when you're trying to incorporate a player into your offense, make it easy on them, make it easy on you. When the play breaks down, just run, man. Just run, do what you do naturally as an athlete, and take care of it. And then they did this thing where they split between Stone Earl and Braylon Braxton, and Marshall fans simply hated it, right? I mean, if they were doing well, it was fine, but obviously it's the first time they're losing. They did not like it. I don't like that. And TJ and I have talked about this and the old saying, if you have two quarterbacks, you don't have one.
Yep.
I just don't like going back and forth. I think Braxton is the guy, like you said. He brings something with the feet that he's elusive enough. You've got AJ Turner. AJ Turner finally gets rewarded after all season. I don't know if you heard the stat from last show, but AJ Turner has about half as many carries as the other top running backs in this conference. But he has the most yards by a good amount. Oh, wow. So now he's finally getting rewarded because even with all those yards and those little bit of carries, he had only been on the score sheet as far as like touchdowns concerned, like 2 or 3 times, I think, maybe 4 at the most.
So he doubled the game.
Yeah, exactly. He finally got his just due.
I'm looking right now, 177 for 3 touchdowns. That's a pretty good day. I mean, listen, going back to Braxton, I don't think he's the kind of guy where if they were down big, you're just like, hey, we're going to drop back and throw it with him 40 times. I don't think he's that guy.
Right.
If the defense continues to play like that, if Turner can run the football like that, if you look at the overall stats, Georgia State dominated time of possession. They by 10 minutes, it was 35-25. So I don't know. I think Braxton's doing exactly what he needs to do for them now. They're scoring without having the ball a whole bunch. I think when they played App, I think we dominated the time of possession that day as well. But he's getting it done once again. I don't think if they were down 3 touchdowns, you feel really comfortable like, oh, this guy's going to carry us down the field and score a whole bunch of points. But he's doing everything he should be doing right now. And, 2-1. As an App fan, I would love to be 4-3 and 2-1 in conference right now.
Oh, yeah. And what's funny is like they played a little bit of a gauntlet before conference play where they had Virginia Tech and Ohio State. So they had 2 losses. And I think people started to write them off and say, oh, Marshall's not very good. And maybe those games weren't as close as people thought they should be or could be type of thing. But you saw flashes in both of those games where Marshall was looking just fine. Obviously, Ohio State is a whole nother animal. Virginia Tech, maybe you say coulda, woulda, shoulda because of how, ODU's played them close and whatnot. But, this team is just fine. I think you have A.J. Turner and Braylon Braxton running the ball down your throats. You're going to be just fine. Yeah, it's funny, too, because Georgia State took pretty good care of the football. No turnovers in the game. Yeah. One time of possession, still lost the game by 15 points. So
good. And they still had 427 yards of offense. I mean, pretty balanced. 210 through the air, 220 on the ground. You look at their stat sheet, like they did everything right. They just didn't score enough points.
Yeah, and Gibson got some time at quarterback. His Vayer's kind of, I wouldn't say gone backwards, but maybe he hasn't evolved as much as they had hoped for, even after looking pretty good in the early part of the season. So Gibson's
he only got to throw the ball 4 times. Gibson might be in the future.
Yeah, he might be. And I think a lot of people were thinking he might be the guy coming into the season as well. So it's not altogether shocking. I think he's the transfer from Georgia Tech. So I think a lot of people had assumed he would kind of be the guy right away. But Vayer had experience at like Penn State and Pitt. So it's not like he's inexperienced there. Yeah, and AJ Moore mentioning that Vandy is actually ranked in the rankings. I don't agree with that at all, but I don't know. You lose to Georgia State, that's fine because we can say, oh, yeah, well, Georgia State's good. Well, that was at the time. But now that we're looking at them as an 0-3 record in their own conference, I don't know how you reward Vandy for that. I mean, I guess, obviously the win over Bama is huge, but Bama's not great.
I think Vandy took Missouri down to like the last play, if I'm not mistaken. And Missouri's a top 15 team. So I don't know. I don't.
Should they be, though? They haven't looked great either here lately.
They have not looked great, but they're
struggled to beat a bad Auburn team. Yeah,
they really struggled to beat a bad Auburn team. I mean, that was I think they had to score 2 touchdowns in the last couple minutes to win that game.
Yeah.
But, hey, a win's a win.
Oh, it's true. That is the ultimate thing that matters the most. We got Chris Howell jumping on here. I've been there. Any big injuries to Georgia State after beating Vandy? Trying to figure out what happened to them. No, nothing that one of the main guys on defense or offense has been out with. I mean, I think they came through that game pretty much unscathed as far as like any big injuries are concerned. I'm sure some guys were a little banged up. Whenever you got those teams that are a little deeper and got some guys that are bigger on the other side, it's obviously not going to feel great the next day. But winning helps that.
winning heals all wounds, right?
Yeah. I think winning makes you feel pretty good after that. But I think we got to see where both of these teams go because trending in opposite directions at the moment. Also trending in opposite directions here. We had the Cajuns go to Conway to face Coastal Carolina and come away with a 34-20. I think it's supposed to be 24 victory, wasn't it?
Yeah, 34-24, yeah.
I missed editing that one.
You missed
while we talk about that, I'll take this down and edit it. But yeah, so 34-24, that's actually really similar scoreline to what they had against App State just a week previous. Was it a week previously? 2 weeks?
No, previous week.
Just 1 week?
Yeah.
Nice. All right. Well, so I guess go ahead and touch on what you saw out of this one or what you see sticking out to you in this one, and I'll fix that graphic for us so I don't look like a fool here.
Here's what sticks out. Louisiana's pretty good. Woolridge is a good quarterback, threw for 373 and 3 touchdowns. I mean, it was a back-and-forth game. Clean game. Nobody turned the ball over. Just too much Louisiana. I mean, scored 17 points in the fourth quarter when it mattered the most. Just a really good game. I think Louisiana is starting to, after everything else has happened in the West, is starting to separate as like the favorites in the West at the moment. And I think Coastal's dropped their last 2, have they not?
Yes.
Yeah. So
yes, they have.
Sliding a little bit back for Coastal. I still think Coastal's a pretty good football team. I think they'll be fine in the in the East. Have they played Georgia Southern yet?
No.
Okay. So that's probably the East matchup to watch. But yeah, Cajuns are good.
Yeah. Very, very good. Very solid on both sides. It's funny though, because you see the 6-1, you see 3-0. If you go and follow Cajun fans on Twitter, Rage and Review, those guys, obviously, there's always going to be nitpicking. We should have won by more. We should have won cleaner, all this and that. One thing to mention pictured here for Coastal is Ethan Vasco started the game and was taken out pretty quickly as they struggled to get going early. Noah Kim, the transfer from Michigan State, seems to have probably taken the reins over fully at this point. He came in, sparked the offense to continue doing well down the stretch here. Obviously, again, Cajuns pull away late to make sure that they win that one with a Almendaris field goal to start it off, and then Terrence Carter with a 59-yard pass from Ben Woolridge again. Ben Woolridge, I'm truly believe maybe one of the most underrated quarterbacks, not only just in this conference but across the country for what he does on and off the field, like the veteran leadership presence that he provides as well as the skill position. He's not going to beat you with his legs. He's not one of those dual threat guys. I mean, he's got that 6'3" or 6'4" frame, so he's got some long strides. He can get a couple yards in a pinch. He's not going to take off and run 60-plus yards on you. That's not the kind of quarterback he is. He's going to dissect you through the air a little bit. This is a little bit of a revenge game. I think this is the first time this game has taken place since the COVID game that did not happen.
Yeah, they got back for it. Now, just Vasco started 3 for 10, and then Kim comes in and goes 16 for 25 for 2 touchdowns. I think you're right. He probably does supplant him for now. As the star. I mean, Vasco played decent to begin the season.
Yes.
But, I don't know.
You got to look back and, like you said, to begin the season, we look back at that schedule. They had William & Mary FCS team. Not a bad one, pretty good one actually. But they had Temple. They had Jacksonville State, which is rounding into form, but they were bad to start the season. I think they started off winless, for their first 4 or 5 games. So, maybe you're looking and going, okay, maybe that's why Vasco looks so good. But, I mean, he's looked good in the past, taking the team to a bowl game last year and everything else. So it wasn't that he wasn't talented. I mean, Beck was singing his praises at the Sunbelt preseason media days. When I had asked him specifically, trying to ascertain who was going to be his starter. I knew at that point after he had a glowing review over Vasco, and 5 minutes into it, he's talking about Noah Kim for the first time. I'm like, yeah, I know who the guy is.
Heard of him.
Yeah, but I mean, this is I just accidentally clicked something over here and it went right to Noah Kim right after I said that. It's kind of a weird thing that just happened there. Artie's got a question for us and maybe the other viewers as well. Can you name 3 FBS teams with colored fields? Well, one's easy. It's right here.
Boise.
And Boise, yep.
Central Arkansas.
Yeah, but
are they still FCS?
They're still FCS.
Oh man,
FCS team. I'm struggling. I actually was going blank on Boise for a split second, but as soon as you said it, I'm like, oh yeah, duh.
Smurf Turf, man.
Yeah, Smurf Turf. Yeah, how could you forget that one?
Who is the third?
This is a new one.
I have a feeling that when we see it, it's going to be like, oh, that was so obvious.
It's probably not obvious, but I do remember seeing a bunch of stuff about it before the season started. I think it actually existed before, but there's an NFL player who played college ball here who did a big donation to help redo it, I think.
Who was it? Eastern Michigan, huh?
Remember they have that gray field? It looks like it's
oh gosh, yes.
It looks terrible on TV. I'll just say that. It just looks horrendous to me.
I don't think any of the colored turfs look good on TV. I can think of Eastern Washington, that red turf they have just looks.
Yeah,
I'm not a big fan.
No, I actually, being there in person and seeing it on TV with Coastal, it doesn't really bother me as much. It's not drastic to me. I know people hate on it, but I don't think the teal and green are all that crazy different, I guess, you could say because they're wearing teal sometimes on the teal turf, but Boise does it. I don't think that many people hate it on Boise. So
they were the first to do it. They were the innovators. So you can't hate on them. But yeah, the gray turf is weird. The red turf is weird. The Central Arkansas is like that purple. It's a
purple and gray. Yeah.
Purple and gray. Yeah. It's not a good look.
Yeah, Terry Walker joining the show saying, what's up, guys? There's a college in New York that has a red and black field. That would be something to see.
Yeah.
Like a two-tone colored field that's drastic. The purple and gray is probably dull enough where you're not okay, that's not – but red and black is pretty significant.
Right there.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, okay, so like in video games and when you're having fun with design work or something, that's great. It probably looks cool. But when you actually put it on a camera from a field box level or a stadium height and you look down at it, sometimes you're not going to get that effect that you think you are.
I agree.
So I don't know. All right, we'll go on to the next game after this one. One of the first shocking games of the weekend as ODU plays host to Texas State and takes them down in Norfolk 24-14. I didn't have this one.
I didn't have this one either. I told you the game. I took the under just because Old Dominion tends to have low-scoring games. I think the spread on this one was 10, and that was kind of tempting. I didn't take any action on that, thank God. But, very surprised.
Yes. I was also very surprised. I was very surprised to see it early, and I thought, okay, they're struggling early. We've seen Texas State do that a couple times. They're going to come back and win this one. It would be closer than it should have been kind of thing, but they'll win by 3 or they'll win by 6 or they'll win by 7 couldn't do it. They could not pull it off, and I want to give a quick shout-out. A.J. Moore did list Eastern Michigan before we had already put it up on there, so he was the only one to get that, and he was naming a couple other schools that we had talked about with Central Arkansas, and that and Artie, full credit. I told you after the ASU game that Bobcats would be lucky to win 6 games. I wasn't being hyperbolic. Yeah. He was not. I just saw like too many flashes that I thought was going to have these guys just come back to life, though. In other games,
the Arizona State game, I was like, "Oh God, they're dangerous." Like, I thank God we don't have to play them. My favorite to win the West. I don't know. You just look around, and you think they got all the pieces. Everyone talked about, the video game style numbers they were capable of putting up on offense. Everyone thought the defense was going to be just good enough, but I don't know, little disappointing.
Yeah, definitely. Ben James saying, "What's up?" Kind of the same thing I already kind of alluded to, and I'll stick to this because it just makes too much sense. It's easy. Colton Joseph, it's not going to blow you away with the passing yards.
Nope.
But he can beat you with his legs, and he's fast as hell, and people are underestimating that on the defensive side of the ball, I think. So he really – okay, so he was the leading rusher for ODU with 111 yards and 3 touchdowns.
3 touchdowns, and he threw for 130. So, I mean pretty balanced day for him. You're right. He's kind of like the guy from Marshall. Is he going to drop back and throw the ball 40 times and march you down the field and win the game with his arm? Maybe not, but you add that element of defenses having to account for that guy, having the linebackers have to sit there and watch, and the safety always have to have their eye in the backfield, presents problems. Yeah. We got AJ jumping on Facebook to give us a comment about Georgia Southern, and that's the next game up, I believe. So we'll get to that one when we get over to there. But Artie says the coaches just can't seem to make any game time adjustments. We'll lose the next 2 games versus UL and ULM. That leaves Southern Miss and Georgia State to hopefully get to 6 wins. But see, this is the thing. As much as I can understand Artie's frustration, like the talent on Texas State could win just about any matchup. Like you said, we saw it with Arizona State. And Arizona State is not some juggernaut. They've just lost their 2nd game of the season. Yeah. But if they had a kicking game, maybe they wouldn't have lost. So anyway, True.
Still a very solid team that they competed right with and could have won that game right there towards the very end. But I just don't – I have a hard time believing that they couldn't turn it on in any one aspect. Now, could they keep it going for 4 straight games? Yes, that's the question mark. But I do believe that any one singular matchup that you look at the rest of the way, Texas State is going to be either favored or just under a favorite, because their offense can be prolific if they are firing on all cylinders. That's what they're not necessarily doing right now, but you still got Jordan McLeod, you still got Ishmael Mahdi, you still got Joey Hobart, and a number of other great wide receivers on that roster can make things work. It's the defense that does have to turn it on a little bit more than they have been. So, yeah, I mean, McLeod did throw 2 picks in this game. Mahdi had another great game, which is kind of his MO. But
I don't know. They're kind of like they were in baseball, right? It's like a team that's got all this great potential that you think could, really do something. They show flashes of it, but they're just not doing it consistently. But you're right. I mean, you show those games, Warhawks, then Southern Miss and Georgia State, like they could beat all three of those teams. That the ULL game is going to be a heck of a game because I think the Cajuns are just absolutely rolling right now. But yeah, they could easily win 3 out of their next 4. They just got to get it going.
Yeah. Artie says Joe Namath could go to grad school tomorrow and run through the Bobcats secondary. He actually says the defense played well yesterday. Only Monty on offense played very good. Yeah, I mean, Monty, just like Marv just said, like had a great game. And he actually hasn't had a whole lot of those this season. He's been good. He hasn't been maybe to the level a lot of people thought. 139 yards on 25 carries. That's getting you back on the right side of things. It's just got to be it's got to be a fully well-rounded game for Texas State to start winning these, and they're not quite doing it just yet. But
do you possibly think that having McLeod there is taken away from Marty a little bit?
Yeah, no, I definitely think that's a possibility there, and maybe a couple times you're looking at longevity purposes, and you're saying, hey, we don't need to run them into the ground early in the season. I don't think that's all, that's not the sole reason or anything, but it could be an aspect of some of the early, game time decisions in that regard. Okay, another stunner here, this time in Statesboro, Georgia. Power of Paulson does it again, taking down a not ranked this time, James Madison. Last time that they did show up down there, they were ranked. We'll go right into the comments because I don't want to get too far away. So AJ Moore had said, so Georgia Southern is selling their whiteout helmets. Do you think they should have kept them, or are you not mad at them for selling the helmets? First of all, I love the look 2 weeks ago. Obviously, they won in those, and it was one of the most epic comebacks you're ever going to see. And you do it at your home arena or stadium, it's going to be awesome. They've got to capitalize on those moments where you can make a ton of money. That's my thought process. Sure, they can go order more helmets, but they sell those helmets for what? I think they're selling them for like $2,000 a piece or something crazy. Ooh. They can get some more helmets. They don't cost $2,000. I guarantee you. No, they don't. They don't. And Tim Platt wants Randy Peacock to say it one more time. So we'll see if he comes back on to say that. But yeah, Tim is also saying he wished that they had kept those white helmets or use them once a year, even if it was for an away game. But I'll admit I'm one of those ones that always hate alternate uniforms. I did finally like these. They were a sharp look. James Madison wore all white against them this past weekend. So an interesting whiteout to whiteout thing that's went both ways for Georgia Southern in the good side of things. But yeah, I like the look. Georgia Southern's always had that, like Penn State, Michigan, like they've always been that classic clean. They don't put a bunch of crap all over the place. It's a really sharp looking jersey color combination to go with the white and keep it still simple. Like I liked it. So yeah, but I just say you got to capitalize where you can make money as a football program anymore these days. I don't know, Marv, what are your thoughts on selling a helmet like that?
I mean, App does it all the time. They do game-worn jerseys and game-worn helmets on an auction pretty much all the time. So I'm with you. They can buy more, sell them.
Yeah, they could buy more. They could put them in red right now, and Georgia Southern fans would probably buy them as long as it said their name on it somewhere.
Yeah, very true. But, man, this game right here, you jumped out to a 21-0 lead.
Yes.
You turn the ball over 4 times. And still, the game's never in jeopardy. That's says a lot about how dominant the defense was playing. James Madison didn't turn the ball over; they just couldn't do anything. And I think that was my question watching Georgia Southern. Take the Boise State game out of it, just because they're really good. But you kind of thought like, hey, this offense can play with anyone. French is a gunslinger; he's going to throw some of those interceptions. But, if the defense can just be good enough, and then I thought their defense looked phenomenal on Saturday. And despite the turnovers, you still win very convincingly.
Yeah, no doubt about it. The defense really turned it on. I mean, that was one of the things that Coach Helton was harking on before the season started. Really thought this defense was going to be the strong point of the team, and they hadn't really been up until recently, and they've really started to turn that on, especially against an offense like JMU, who wasn't really hitting on all strides anyways. But obviously that's due in large part to the defensive effort from the Eagles in that one.
But you know what James Madison can do. We've seen him put up crazy numbers, right? I don't know, just impressed with Southern. Two good wins back to back. Not looking forward to playing them the weekend after Thanksgiving.
No, I don't think anybody's going to be looking forward to playing these guys anytime soon. Tyler Olsen saying, can we please, as a conference, stop with the JMU honeymoon now? The media love fest has almost been unbearable since they've gotten here. Yeah, but I think at the same time, you got to give credit to a team that comes in and it wasn't just football, right? They were winning across the board.
Everywhere. They're good at basketball. They're good at baseball. I think a lot of teams get a little bit of hype when it's like, oh, they're transitioning up, but they're really good. Like, let them play in a bowl game. But listen, I think any hype for the conference is good.
It is.
Being an App State guy, we've got history with James Madison well before they ever got into this conference. And there's, if they fell off, I wouldn't care, right? But I think the conference is better with them in it. And they're still a pretty good football team.
Yeah, they are absolutely a good football team, a great athletic department in general as they continue to get it done on the soccer field. I think they're a pretty good volleyball team. It just seems like they do really well. So we have to give them their credit. But, yeah, I mean, people get sick of it, right? I mean, when someone's coming in and upsetting the status quo and talking about how they're the greatest.
I'm sure everyone hated App when we came in the conference and started doing really well. Everyone hated Coastal when they had their little run with McCall and the Mullets versus the Mormons and all that good stuff. So
hey, everybody hated Georgia Southern. The first year they came in, they won the conference but weren't allowed to. Remember that? So
very true.
Yeah, I mean it happens
because they ain't us, right?
Yeah, that's exactly correct. That is absolutely correct there. Artie and Ben are talking about their upcoming matchup between Troy and actually I guess they're talking about a Troy matchup, but we'll get back to that. Artie is also saying UABP. I got to say that slow, otherwise I'd mess it up. But Arkansas Pine Bluff was penalized for not wearing contrasting uniforms versus Arkansas last month. Arkansas declined the penalty. That's a nice thing to do. It's kind of ridiculous.
They said we don't need it. We'll be fine.
Yeah, we'll go without it. How do you not bring other uniforms and just be ready, though? I don't know. This day and age, you just don't bring – you bring semi-trucks to these games. I don't know how you don't have everything you'd ever need, but we'll see. AJ's saying Georgia Southern cannot go into the ODU game on a high win. They have to keep their head on straight. Southern is really bad with these types of games. Well, I mean, historically, they're not really bad with those types of games. Maybe lately they have struggled to get up in those trap games or whatnot. I don't know at this point with what ODU has been doing here lately, if it's really considered a trap game anymore. It's just a big game now. Like
it is.
You're talking about
Thursday night too.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, man. And A-State hasn't played JMU in 2 years and Georgia Southern in like 3 years. Yeah, that's some of those the fact that we only conference left with divisions, those types of things are going to happen. We'll see if those types of things change at any one point. Like we said, Commissioner did allude to the fact that if something were to happen that made it seem like it made sense to not have the divisions, he could see them going away, but obviously didn't put any stock in that.
I'm about to say, what do you do, though? I mean, you're still going to miss opponents. We have 14 teams in the league. You can't say, out the window with non-conference games, you're just going to play 12 games here.
Yeah, I don't know exactly how that does. Tyler, to answer your random question about hoops coverage, we do. We will be getting into hoops coverage very shortly, finalizing a full-time co-host for that. I might have some of these guys from the football stuff jump on there occasionally as well. Definitely want to do a little bit more and better for that hoop coverage this coming season. So definitely going to be doing that. And we got the Everything College Basketball digital magazine where I previewed each and every Sunbelt team along with every other D1 basketball team in the country. I didn't do all the previews. I just did the Sunbelt, focused on that.
Holy crap, Dom. You didn't tell me about that.
No. I did not do that. I am not that type of expert. And I I'm trying to become more of an expert when it comes to the Sun Belt hoop aspect. They knew that I was covering the conference, so I helped do some writing for that magazine. I'm proud to say I'm a part of that because that thing looks really, really sharp. It's the pre-order is $15. I think it now has officially released everywhere. They sent it to you in a digital copy, like I said, via email. I think it's available for $20. So still a really good deal. We're trying to become what Phil Steele is to, college football magazine with basketball. But obviously the digital version is real easy to kind of take care of and do. Well, I shouldn't say that. I didn't publish it, so I didn't have to go through all the heartache that those guys did. But the digital version is easily distributed. How about that? The magazine getting printed fully, hopefully one day when we're down the road with doing much better on those types of things. Okay. I think we covered that one enough as those two teams roll on and JMU tries to recover from what's been happening to them lately on the scoreboard. One team that we know is not going to recover real quick after the firing of their head coach just a few hours ago. Southern Miss went down to Arkansas State this past weekend, 28-44. Although we had a solid game to the third quarter, I think
it was a good first half. It was 28-21. Then Arkansas State just pulled away. Scored 13 unanswered in the third quarter. They just couldn't get back in the game.
Yeah, Jalen Rayner. I've been waiting for a performance like this from Jalen like most of the season, to be honest. I think he's been capable of it a couple times. Obviously, again, just like we talked about with Marshall playing two really tough opponents. Yeah. They go on the road and play at Michigan and at Iowa State, so not easy games to do there. Obviously, Michigan's not what they were last year. Still a solid football program with a great defense.
Yep.
Again, two losses. People started to say, they're 2-2. They're not any good, whatever. They're 2-1 in this conference now, and they're vying for a chance at the Sun Belt West title. So, yeah, we'll have to see. Ben James asking if you're watching Sunday Night Football, because I think I could see the reflection behind your head.
I may or may not need Aaron Rodgers to continue to have a very fantastic game for me to win my fantasy matchup this week. So, yes, I am watching Sunday Night Football.
What about you're a baseball guy? You're not going to be having that. Is that started yet?
So the Yankees have clinched the American League Championship, and Dodgers are up 3-2. That game might be going on right now.
I think it is.
Yeah, I'm a Phillies guy, so the Phillies got knocked out, and very sad about that. But Dodgers are up 6-1 in the third. So it looks like Major League Baseball is going to get their dream matchup, Dodgers, Yankees in the World Series. I don't know how much you watch Major League Baseball, but last year Diamondbacks, Rangers didn't set any viewership records. So Major League Baseball needed all of their stars and their best stadiums and all that good stuff to be on full display.
Makes sense.
Yeah,
makes sense.
Conspiracy theorists, but
yeah, right. Ben James, this is the point that he makes that is solid as far as divisions going away. If you add 2 or 3 more teams, then maybe you say like it's just going to be not equal enough. We'll just go away from the divisions. This one is much to do with this specific game here. So do y'all think bad clock management ended up costing Will Hall his job last night, waiting until under a minute left to start using three timeouts? Diehard A-State fan here.
I think 14 and 32 cost him his job. I don't think it was any one singular event, not calling timeouts. So just, you got people that pay a lot of money to be boosters and, spend a lot of money and time coming to stadiums and tailgating and traveling. And if the product on the field isn't what they want it to be, then you got to go in a different direction.
Yeah. I don't think it was this one game. I don't think, probably not fired if you do win this one, maybe. But in fairness to A-State fans, I mean, this isn't a win that like also does you a whole bunch of favors, right? I mean, it's just a win. It keeps you alive in the conference in some regard, right? Because you come out 1-2 with some type of chance, not a good one, but especially with the powers that be at the West right now. But I don't think bad clock management, which he's had a couple times really, is the specific reason that he lost his job, but probably looked even worse. There was a lot of people with paper bags on their heads. There was a huge fight on campus that had nothing to do with this game, at least to my knowledge. So it was all kind of bad news down there in Hattiesburg after this one was over across the board. So hopefully they can clean things up on and off the field, get the ship righted there, and kind of get this program going back in a new direction. But unfortunately for them, I would assume most of that is going to happen in the off season. I'm not sure what gets done right here right now. I just looked it up. Rodemaker has thrown only 4 touchdowns this year, 4 interceptions. I think 2 other quarterbacks have played. The other one's Crowder, right? That was played in this one here.
I believe you were correct.
And he has rushed for 3 touchdowns. He's also thrown 3 interceptions. So like every time they do some good things, they do the opposite. You know what I mean? Like no one's really grabbing hold of that starting quarterback job by playing phenomenally well. I mean, I liked what I saw out of him on the ground with the rushing aspect, but yeah, I mean, it looks like he's not real great with the completion percentage. And again, 0 touchdowns thrown, 3 interceptions.
It's not going to get it done.
No, it's not going to get it done at all. Do you all think G.J. Kenny stays for another year due to Texas State's performance this year? Yeah, I do. I don't know if you see him get a power job after what was expected to be a really big year for the Bobcats, but you know there might be a team out there that gives him a shot.
Yeah, we were talking earlier in the season, like, hey, how much money is Baylor going to throw at this guy at the end of the year, right?
Yeah.
I think once again, we talked, they could easily run the table. They could win 3 out of their next 4, go to a bowl game. But I don't see anybody coming after him at the end of the season. Could be wrong, but there's still, 4 or 5 weeks left.
Yeah. Arkansas State defense played great pressure on the quarterback and forced fumbles. Yeah, there was 3 of them, 3 turnovers, I should say, in this one. And Arkansas State didn't turn it over not once. So not only were you playing very well on your side, you also didn't make any real mistakes. I don't know.
That's the formula for success in football, right? Like, don't turn the ball over and make the other team turn the ball over. You do that, you're going to be in every game.
Yeah. Absolutely. Chris Howell saying Rayner was still off a little, but better than he has been thus far this season. Can't wait to see the Rayner from last year. Yeah, I this is the closest to the performances he had last year for sure. And it's hard to say he was a little off. I didn't watch every second of this one. Again, we were getting back from that state fair and doing dinner and getting in and out of the house a couple times. But, yeah, I mean, every time I tuned in, it was just more and more for A-State. Although, like, at some point, I thought this one was over, 21-7 at the end of the first quarter. Like, yeah, it's over. And then it got close. Yeah. So it wasn't over. But yeah, Artie Cat saying the Rock is now the Pebble. Well, if you ask App State fans, it ain't the Rock anyway. But sorry,
that's valid.
Yeah, is Southern Miss better or worse than Troy? Arkansas State plays Troy next week. I would say
I would take Troy in that game.
Yeah, I would definitely take Troy in that game. Now, I'd take them even stronger without a shadow of a doubt if they've got Goose Crowder at the helm as well. If they don't, that helps.
What's the deal with him? Is he? Do they think he's coming back this season?
I think he is coming back, but I don't know if there's a definitive on that. I mean, there was a question whether he was going to end up starting the South Alabama game. So with that being the case, I'm thinking he's coming back.
He's close.
Is it next week? That, nothing definitive that I've seen or heard on that, but I'm thinking he's coming back. A-State is back at home, and A-State is undefeated at home this year, and Troy has a challenge this coming Saturday. Absolutely, Troy does have a challenge. I think A-State does have a challenge as well, though, too. Again, with what Troy is doing, they are building slowly, but they could turn it on at any one point in time. I feel like their defense is not really a big issue. It's that offense they need to continue to get going and get back on the right track. Southern Miss was sued by Iowa once over logo similarities. I did not know that.
I can, now that you say that, you see it, I'm like, yeah, okay.
Oh, yeah. Definitely can see that. I'm going to get rid of this, and we'll just go straight. Well, we'll go to the standings after this, but we'll get a couple questions rolling through here before we do that. Fun fact, the number 1 team in the FBS, FCS, and D2 all lost yesterday. I did not know that FCS number 1 lost. Was that North Dakota?
I don't think North Dakota State's number 1.
No, I think North Dakota, not North Dakota State.
I thought I would have thought it was South Dakota State. Here, I'm going to look that up real quick.
Maybe it is.
I
know the D2 one because Sam Stubbs, the writer that we had on that went to the A-State game a couple weeks ago, he actually writes for Harding, which is the D2 number 1 team, or was until Saturday. The team that beat them is probably likely to be number 1 because they are undefeated and just beat them. So, yeah, interesting.
Let's see. Who was number 1? So FCS coaches poll, it doesn't tell me when this was updated. South Dakota State is the number 1 team, or was when this was done. It says last week they won versus Young. So I don't know who it was.
Gotcha.
Like I said, I don't know when this thing was updated.
Interesting. I haven't kept up with the FCS at all really this year. I'm usually a little bit better, but now that we've gone to 2 shows a week, I put more time and effort into that.
I used to know everything about FCS football. Now I don't really know anything.
Yeah, so did Georgia Southern fans, so did JMU fans, so did Coastal fans. Yeah. We all knew a lot more about FCS back in the day. The majority of this conference has come from the FCS.
Let me ask you a question. Do you ever miss it?
I miss a little bit of the playoff aspect. Yeah. But let's be honest. I don't know, besides like maybe 2 or 3 playoff games that were really actually like sold out and going nuts crazy.
Talking about at Boone?
Well, anywhere really, but yeah, Boone specifically is the thing I'm thinking about off the top of my head. Like we had that Richmond game that was a playoff game that was insanity.
That was a party from beginning to end. That was at the game that Armani just went off and ran for like 313.
Yep.
Yeah, that was the problem with the playoff games was the first weekend was always Thanksgiving weekend, so most of the students were gone.
Yeah.
Then as it went up, I don't know. I thought they were a ton of fun. I mean, obviously those are my college years, so I wouldn't. My sophomore, junior, and senior season was 05, 06, 07. So, excuse me.
Tough life.
Yeah, I mean, it was. That was a lot of fun. I wouldn't trade that for anything, to be completely honest. To answer my own question, do I occasionally miss it? Yeah, the playoffs was fun. I know they moved the national championship site, but when we were making national championship games there in Chattanooga, that was like a 3-hour drive. That was super cool. But what I want to know that we have to still play like Furman and Wofford and VMI, that like those are your big games. Nah, I'm good on that. Yeah,
that definitely the regular season has vastly improved.
Yes,
especially with a lot of the teams that we had fun playing in the FCS days now being in.
Yeah, they're all with us. They're all with us anyway.
Yeah, I mean that was the fun stuff. So luckily we've kept that around. Michael Riley asking, do y'all think A-State, Arkansas State can make it to 8-4?
I'm pulling their schedule up right now. So they got Troy this weekend. I think they have a decent – I mean, they're favored by 7. That's the early line from Vegas. So could they get to 5-3? Yeah, very realistically. Then after that, they have Louisiana, Georgia State, ULM, Old Dominion. I mean, just looking at that, like I would feel way more comfortable saying 7-5 versus 8-4. I think 8-4 is like best case scenario. 7-5 is probably most realistic in my opinion.
Yeah. I think that's fair. I mean, you're going to have a tough time with both the Louisiana teams. Georgia State's on the road. It's not. Yeah. It's not a atmosphere that's going to be intimidating, but it's not going to be easy to travel up to Atlanta and play that game either. So
I've heard so many people say it's actually just as hard to play in an empty away stadium as it is to play in one that's super loud, just because you can't really get into the game. Like, I mean, most people that play college sports are very competitive. And when there's, no crowd to quiet down or anything like that, it's not that much fun to play in.
Yeah, no doubt. That's true of even like youth sports. I feel like that's probably the case, right? Like you're not out there showing off to mom and dad and a couple people at least, and you're going to play a little different and like, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you from, all the youth sports that I'm involved with, the intensity in a game is vastly different than the intensity in a practice.
Oh, yes. Absolutely.
And a lot of that is because, yes, there are people there watching.
Yeah, that's very true. Very, very true. Ben believes the Red Wolves will beat Troy this upcoming Saturday. They're favored as of right now as a 7-point favorite. Mr. Cash Only, what do you think one more year of GJ Kenny recruiting looks like? Well, I mean, he's a good recruiter. I think he's got kids coming in there that really like him and want to play for him, and he's really young, right? So he's going to connect with these kids way better than, a Will Hall or, even probably a Sean Clark is old enough that he's not like hanging out playing video games with his guys, where I feel like Kenny would be that kind of coach, But
yeah,
I don't know those types of things, very well, but just taking a shot at what the age gap would do in certain situations. But yeah, I mean, I think he's brought in talented players, so I think another year recruiting for Kenny looks pretty good still. I don't have any problems with his recruiting.
Yeah, I think he's a good recruiter for sure.
Yeah, I'm not at all concerned about him recruiting. It's just little changes on the.
He's going to have to get a quarterback.
That's true.
Very true. Quarterback.
I think after what he's proven with bringing in guys and have them be successful. I know, the record is what it is, and it should be better, but still, quarterback wise, they're still overly successful when compared to other teams. And I think guys are going to want to come in and play for a coach that's going to have them throwing the ball and able to still run the ball. Because I feel like he's going to bring in dual threats from now on.
Yeah, if you're a dual threat quarterback and you look at that offensive system, you're like, all right, this works. I can do that.
Exactly. Absolutely. Ben James noting a warm-up game on the basketball side of things for A-State. And the team from West Arkansas lost yesterday. What record do you think Georgia Southern could end with?
Oh, man.
By the time it's all over. Yeah, I got to pull that up, too.
So 5-2.
Mm-hmm.
I think they have the game of the week coming up this week. They get past Old Dominion, which let's see. Man, Vegas thinks this is going to be a good game. It's ODU -2. That's the spread currently.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Which as soon as I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of money on the Eagles. Let's see. So after Old Dominion, USA, Troy, Coastal App, 5 games. I easily see 3 wins there.
I'd say 3 wins for sure. I don't know exactly which ones, but I'd say 3 wins at least.
I could literally see 9-3.
I think that's fair. I think their easiest game left has to be Troy or App State.
Yeah.
But the thing about the App State thing, and I said this with TJ last week too, because we were talking about that matchup specifically, not the one at the end of this year, just in general. We're talking about how those two teams have gone head to head. Throw the records out, out who's hot and who's not. That's a rivalry with intensity that comes down to way more than just one game.
It does.
So,
and here's the other thing. They play 3 of their next 5 on the road. They do get Troy at home. They get App at home. And they go to Old Dominion, South Alabama, and Coastal.
Right. And we're seeing that Old Dominion's got a quarterback that can beat you with his legs now. Has more tape and coverage.
And they've got a good defense too. They've got a good defense. I think if they beat Old Dominion, I could see them beating South Alabama and Troy, and rolling into Conway at 8-2. I also think if they maybe win those next 3 games, depending on what happens, maybe they got a number beside their name when they roll in there.
Possibly. If you look at their losses, right? So they had the Boise State loss, which was a shootout to start the year with a Heisman Trophy candidate. He's my number 1 as it sits right now. So
what did he do this weekend?
They were Boise might have been on bye this week. Let me see if I can.
Let's see if they were.
I can't remember off the top of my head or not. Because sometimes when they play those 10:30 games, I ain't staying awake for that.
No, they were off. They were off.
Yeah, because they had Hawaii the week before, 28-7.
They got UNLV. Yeah. No, I mean, listen.
That UNLV game is going to be a good one.
That UNLV game is going to be a good one. But no, going back to the Southern thing, you get through ODU on a Thursday night. You get 10 days to prepare for South Alabama, Troy at home. Yeah, I mean, you could be 8-2.
Yeah,
and you're right. Their losses are to Ole Miss, and Boise State.
Yeah, and Ole Miss at the time that was ranked 5th in the country. Now they've dropped a little bit since then, but still a good, very talented team.
Both the teams you lost to were top 25 teams, and you hung in really close with one of them.
Yep. And let's not forget though, Georgia Southern and Coastal have a little bit of a rivalry brewing in there. Not to the level of App State, but they've got something going on there. So that one won't be easy one to walk into Conway and come out with a win on. Ben James noting that last season A-State did beat both Louisiana teams. Yeah, I mean, this, again, they're kind of like one of those teams that could just come out and have a phenomenal game. We saw them put up 77 points on the board last season out of nowhere. So, yeah, they could have that type of a game. But, again, you're talking about two teams that are probably better this year than they were last year as well. So you have to be fair in that regard. A-State has beaten ULM 14 straight years. The streak may end this year. He's got his hands up over there with Chris saying that. Yeah, I mean, I don't think –
hands up on that one too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everyone thought JMU was going to waltz right through that matchup, and did not happen.
Didn't happen at all.
Nope. Both Troy and App are home games for Georgia Southern as well. Yep, we probably said that before AJ.
Unless I think they'll take –
before I read it.
I think they'll take Troy, and App's got to show me something for me to think that we have any chance of being competitive with Georgia Southern and Polson. I don't know. Yeah,
already saying it, but a competent coaching staff can stop ODU's quarterback from running Forrest Gump all over the field.
I don't know. Yeah. We'll find out here in 2 weeks.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, though. That kid is like – and they said it on the broadcast, but you kind of knew it already before they even said it. He is deceptively fast. Like,
he is.
Okay, he's going to be a running quarterback. There's no way he's going to get by me on the outside. Oh, no, he did. He got by me on the outside quite a few times. So, yeah, even if you know what's coming in some regards, he's going to be able to make some plays. He is that type of an athlete. So, dangerous.
Are you going up to the App for the ODU game?
My plan is to go to the remaining games, yeah.
See you there.
That's the plan. Yeah. You're going this weekend?
No, not going this weekend. It's our last baseball tournament of the year. But I will be there, plan to be there for Old Dominion and James Madison.
Gotcha. Yeah, I definitely do too. Ben's saying their all-time record is 31-14 against ULM and 21-29-1 against the Cajuns. Yeah, you guys flip-flopping that, which the ULM one's not surprising because of the history of that team. But, yeah, I mean, here it is. Here's a look at the standings. You've got some craziness going on. You had JMU and Coastal up there, first place in the East for the first few weeks. Everyone says, yep, top two teams. They're going to be battling it out. App State kept losing. Georgia State starts losing. And then JMU and Coastal start losing. And now we've got Georgia Southern sitting on top at 3-0, Marshall 2-1, ODU 2-1, JMU Coastal both tied now at 1-2. And Georgia State and App State matching up this coming weekend, both winless.
Battle for the bottom.
Battle for the bottom. Over there in the West, same situation. We've got Southern Miss and Troy winless. And we've got a number of winning records over there in the West. The West is definitely the power side this year.
It is.
They have 3-0 Ragin' Cajuns, 3-0 ULM, 2-1 Texas State, 2-1 Arkansas State, 2-1 South Alabama.
Yeah.
Woo. Man, can you imagine?
There's be a lot of good football these next 5 weeks.
Yeah, no doubt about it. There's going to be a whole lot of good football, man. I mean, it's unfortunate we didn't have a little bit more success out of conference because now we're just beating each other up, taking stuff from each other, like chances for CFP and everything else. But that's also the fun of it because now every matchup matters. You can't go into a game and say, well, I'm not going to go this weekend because I'll just catch the next one. I know that's not your situation. I'm not alluding to you, Marv. I'm just saying across the board, you can't just be like, yeah, we're going to win this one easily. I'll just show up in 2 weeks and go to that one.
Yeah. The kickoff this weekend definitely throws a wrench in my spokes, though. I have a bad feeling that we'll probably have a baseball game right in the middle of that.
Yeah, it makes sense. They're saying for those that don't know,
I completely get it.
Oh yeah. For those that don't know, though, the 1 o'clock start is to kind of get people to come up, spend the money, help the small businesses, and then get out of Boone. And there's still a curfew in effect. It starts at 11 p.m., so they definitely want to kind of clear out town before
Plus
all that.
There's not enough hotels and everything for everybody to come and stay the night. And also, I think, especially this weekend, like Luke Combs, Eric Church, all those guys are throwing on that big benefit concert down in Charlotte that night too. So I know a lot of people that are going to come up to the game and then head straight to Charlotte to the concert.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Did you look at tickets? Did you even try and get tickets?
No.
Oh, so I had the page up like 3 days before it ever went live, and I'm like, I'm gonna leave this tab up on the work computer, have it up, make sure I don't forget about it. Forgot about it completely. Got in the mode at work, and just spaced. I was like, oh snap! It's like an hour and a half later after it goes live. I'm like, there's not gonna be anything left. There was some left. Floor level seats. They did the dynamic pricing on Ticketmaster. You want to take a gander at how much those would have cost me?
Floor level seats, I'm going to say $1,200 a pop.
$2,000 a piece. That's without taxes and fees. That's just like what you're looking at price wise when you click on it. And I was like, I just had to know how much they cost. I was never going to buy them, even if they were $500 a piece. I wouldn't have bought them. But it's not because I wouldn't want to donate that money in some regards. It's just I don't have that kind of money to spend on those types of things. But insanity. I know people were mad about it, but luckily the money in this case is going to a good cause. So
still, that's expensive.
It's insanely expensive.
That's Super Bowl money.
Yeah, it's getting crazy, man. Getting absolutely crazy. Already says that's my gigolo rate. That would,
There's some wealthy women down there in Texas.
Oh man, yeah, that is a little over my price range, but
hey, Artie might give you a discount.
Yeah. Oh, all right. Moving on from that one.
Bring it back in.
Yeah, reel it back. But yeah, I mean, that is a price I am not willing to pay for that, unfortunately. But yes, I do want to mention.
You going this weekend?
Am I going this weekend?
Yeah, you're going up this weekend?
Yeah, I'm going to go up. I always wanted to see that first game back after everything that's happened. I don't know what to expect. I've seen quite a few people trying to sell tickets because, like you said, they've got other things going on at this point. They maybe had already accounted for the game not happening or not happening in Boone and made other plans. All kinds of stuff has gone on. But for those interested in the concert, I do want to throw that out there because, again, it's for a worthy cause and you actually get something out of it. I think it's $25 to stream it online for those interested. So you can go to concertforthecarolinas.com, I think, or if you at least Google that, it will pop up. You can find the link and pay. I think it's $25. So I will say that what I've heard for the most part, after having Seth and his family over here for the weekend, is that the roots of Boone are good to go for the most part. There's nothing like real crazy going on. It's all the offshoot little towns and minor streets outside of town limits that are still struggling.
Hey, now, so careful. I heard the Walmart's not open.
That's true. Yes. The Walmart, which is the only big shopping center that you could have to buy things that you might need, is not open. And they were told probably like after Christmas.
Yeah. I mean, they had 3 feet of water in there.
Yeah. The trailer park just behind the Walmart has been destroyed. Bavarian Village, which is a apartment complex I lived in. Luckily, I lived in the second floor when I was there, so those people were probably mostly okay. But that first floor got decimated with flooding. It was already a low-lying area anyway.
Well, from what I can remember from having friends live in Bavarian Village in like 05, 06, like that place it should have been condemned back then.
Yeah, it was not the greatest of establishments to live in either, but it served its purpose.
Hey,
but
college housing, man.
Oh yeah, but if you've seen the video, there's like just a long shot of video of all the stuff just piled up on the side of the road. It's just trash and garbage because it's just ruined. I think Seth was also telling me in a sad thing about not 20%. Okay, this is an insurance company up in the mountains that covers a ton of local people. Not 20%, about 20 people had flood insurance on their properties before this happened. So a lot of people can't even put claims in, and they're just having to deal with everything that came their way, which is insane.
My mother-in-law owns an insurance company in Boone and insures a lot of businesses and a lot of people, and said that one person had flood insurance. Yeah.
I mean, and it makes sense in a lot of ways. Like, unless you live in a
200-year flood. Yeah, you're not in a 200-year floodplain.
Yep.
The bad thing she was telling me is it was super affordable, like flooded insurance. Not trying to go down a rabbit hole here, but like certain insurance companies will cap the maximum amount that you can insure for floods. Other ones don't. But if you went with the one that capped it, which would have capped it at like I think like $250,000 or something like that, the cost was like $200 a year. To have the flood insurance. But if they're telling you that, hey, what you own it hasn't flooded in 200 years, are you going to spend the $200? Now, she did say that flood insurance is the number one selling item in the high country right now. But it just thinks that, people got absolutely devastated and they're going to get no financial help at all, except for FEMA. FEMA's going to give them $750.
Yep, $750. I mean, it's better than nothing. I'll say that, but it's not going to do a whole lot for a whole lot of people, unfortunately. I mean, Chris Howell saying prayers up for all App State country from the Red Wolves. Yeah, and like I said, luckily Boone is mostly good. It's not going to be, I wouldn't say normal. I mean, I'm sure there's still lots of stuff that needs to be fixed and little things that are not going to be the same for a little while. I mean, the parts that got hit the worst are a little bit further south in that Asheville area. That place is just completely decimated. So
I'm interested to see your thoughts next week on what the crowd looks like, what the game day experience, the infrastructure, just kind of how it's all going.
Yeah. No, that's kind of what I want to be up there for, and just like what is the sense that you feel when you're there, right? Yeah. Because I can hear Seth say everything he said to me this weekend, but it'll be something else to see some of these things. And that's not me going to seek things out. Like I'm not going to go drive all over town just to go see things. But I'm sure I will see at least some things that have definitely been changed since the last time I was up there.
For sure.
All right. We got one really good question to end it on with AJ Moore coming across with all of college football in the FBS. What is your game to watch? I'm going to just keep that to this weekend. I think that's maybe what he's alluding to.
This upcoming weekend.
Yeah. I mean, if I'm keeping it in the Sun Belt, I'm going to the one I'm going to because like what we were just talking about, I just want to see what the atmosphere, what the feeling of the game is. And honestly, you've got two teams that are playing each other. Georgia State's never beaten App State. Can they finally do it? This may be the year that it's possible for them. The most possible, I guess I should say. Yeah. But again, it's to me, it's more about the game. It's about more than the game in that regard. So that's a little bit of a selfish one. I don't know what you think, Marv.
So Sunbelt wise, I'm not going to pick that one for selfish reasons. I think the Thursday night game is a really big game. And then if you look at the landscape of college football, I mean, if you just look at like the ranked teams, like the biggest matchup is LSU versus Texas A&M, like number 8 versus number 14. I don't think any one of those are national title contenders, to be completely honest with you. I don't know. There's not a lot of really huge matchups. Hell, I'll say it. Boise State, UNLV. That's my game. I think that maybe whoever wins that one is the G5 representative in the playoff.
Yeah, I won't disagree with that. UNLV, one loss in overtime to a Syracuse team that's really good. Boise State, one loss, really a one-score loss to a very good Oregon team.
Yeah, what's Oregon right now? I mean, after beating Ohio State.
They should be one, but I don't know.
They are one. They are one. Yep. So you lost by one possession to the number one team in the country. Yeah, you're pretty good.
Here's my underrated national game. Okay, I just mentioned them actually. Syracuse versus Pitt. Before the season, I would have laughed in your face if you told me this was going to be a matchup I'd care anything about. Syracuse not ranked, but they are 5-1. Okay, now
right.
that one loss is bad. They lost to Stanford. That's not a good loss, but
it's not a good loss. Yeah.
I don't know.
Hey, that's a Thursday night game too, man. That's going to compete with the belt time slot.
I know, but this you can have YouTube TV solves that. We got to get them as a sponsor. You do the double screen, you're good to go. But yeah, they're playing a Pitt team who is undefeated and ranked, and you could make the argument that Syracuse could and should be ranked. They're probably not getting enough credit for the UNLV victory, to be honest with you, but we'll see.
Hey, how about Signetti? It takes Indiana. I was just scrolling through. They're 13th this week.
Yeah. Okay. I went out there on the Twitterverse, Xverse now, whatever the hell we're calling it, and I put a statement out because one guy who runs a big college football account had said, "What was the most surprising thing to you after this past weekend?" And I just put, "We're finding out that Sunbelt All-Star team in Bloomington, Indiana, is pretty darn good." I mean, I guess you could say it's a backhanded compliment to Indiana, but I wasn't even thinking about Indiana. I was giving full credit to the guys that moved up, and are doing it at this level, including Signetti and the coaching staff, but also the players, because it wasn't just JMU players. It was a few of them, but it was also players from across the Sun Belt in general that went with him. You should have seen the hate I got on that. Oh, JMU fans are blah, blah. I'm like, okay, you guys just want to be all offended for no reason. All I'm saying is the team's good. It wasn't saying Indiana was nothing before. They weren't, but I didn't mention that.
They weren't. What's the last good Indiana football team? I'll hold my breath.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you one. Not a single one. I don't
even know if this team is good, but they sure are winning.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, technically, they haven't played a whole lot of great teams just yet.
They're playing Washington this weekend. I think that's going to be a pretty good – that's a sneaky test for them.
Yeah, well, and I will say this. Nebraska is not great, but they demolished Nebraska. There was no doubt left on that field, so that's why it's an impressive thing. But, man, yeah, I was kind of rooting for Indiana because I wanted to help prove the fact that, look, you're seeing literally what some of the best talent in this league had to offer get taken to a power team and compete in one of the best conferences in the country, and they're winning. So, hey, look at the talent that's in this conference, right? So,
how surprised are you that McLeod's not there with them?
I mean, McLeod was at 2 power conference schools before he went to JMU, or he ended up at Texas State. So,
he obviously flourished very well in that offense.
Yeah, I'm almost wondering if. Maybe it was something with he didn't really get along with Signetti, to be honest with you. I mean, we've seen him. He's got a bravado about him. He's got a confidence about him, a swagger. And maybe
you're gonna love him or hate him,
right? And maybe it was one of those things. He's like, I mean, I like the fact that we won, but I don't really like that guy very much. I don't know.
I just when I saw him leave, and then I saw McLeod hit the transfer portal, obviously it was like, oh, he's gonna follow him, and then he didn't, and he transferred to a peer school. I don't know. Anyway, we are completely off subject now. We need to wrap this bad boy up.
Yeah, I'll give AJ his shout out for game, which I didn't think about. This one is interesting. My game to watch is Texas versus Vanderbilt. Just want to see how Texas backs his back.
I don't think Vegas could give Vanderbilt enough points. Texas is favored by 17.5. I take that back. I think Vegas gave him plenty of points.
Yeah, they did.
At 17.5, that's where it's at. Another sneaky one.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd touch that. I don't have any real confidence to at that point level. I don't have the confidence to take that.
SMU at Duke, 22. SMU's 22nd. Both of them are 6-1.
I'm taking SMU because
giving away 11.5.
Is 11.5?
11.5.
Ooh, that's tough. Because Duke has been winning, but they haven't been winning impressively. They've been winning by squeaking by.
And they're at home. Which, let's not act like Wallace Wade Stadium is going to give you some kind of great home field advantage. But That's another sneaky good game, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's kind of like playing Atlanta for Georgia State.
All right, let's wrap it up.
All right. Yeah, thanks to everyone to tuning in to this one, and come back around for the preview of this upcoming weekend's matchups on Wednesday night.
Thanks, guys.